Hey there, I'm James Morrow. I'm here with my dad to talk about his new book, Shambling Towards Hiroshima. So Dad, I remember back when I was a kid, we used to play a lot with action figures, Power Rangers, which I think is probably still on the show today, and something called Pirates of Dark Water, which probably isn't. But in any case, it looks like you haven't really stopped playing with toys.
Yeah, well, you got me. That's true. I do play with certain kinds of toys, especially horror movie memorabilia. I play with the flying disembodied brain from Fiend Without a Face. Very important film, very philosophical, all about Cartesian dualism. And I still have the first issue of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine.
I'm gonna get behind the camera to zoom in on these treasures of yours.
I've always taken particular pleasure in these Universal horror movie action figures from Sideshow Toys. The mutant from This Island Earth. The creature from the Black Lagoon, which, as we all know, was filmed in 3D so that the monsters seem to be coming out of the screen at us. And the Mole Man from the movie The Mole People, which, as we all know, was filmed in inverse 3D so that the audience seemed to be sucked into the screen. Down into the troglodytic domain of the Mole Man.
So Dad, tell us, what's Shambling Towards Hiroshima all about?
Most of this novella is set in 1945. The central conceit is that the U.S. Navy has developed a top-secret biological weapon in tandem with the Army's Manhattan Project. This program, the Knickerbocker Project, has the code name the New Amsterdam Project. This program's a roaring success. It brings forth a generation of giant, mutant, fire-breathing, bipedal, amphibious iguanas. Monsters that, as you might imagine, strangely anticipate a very famous pop culture icon. The plot turns on the ambition of the Knickerbocker Project scientists to exhibit their new biological weapon to a delegation of Emperor Hirohito's advisors. The scientists believe that if they can get a dwarf form of the behemoth, that is, a version of the lizard that's only about 6 feet tall, if they can get this dwarf to destroy, burn, stomp on a miniature city in the presence of the delegation, well, this will freak out the visiting dignitaries, and it just might leverage the unconditional Japanese surrender that Harry Truman wants and that the Potsdam Declaration demands. However, the dwarf form of the behemoth, while the scientists are successful in breeding a lizard that's only about 6 feet high, turns out that the dwarf form is much too docile. So the Navy has to hire a veteran and versatile Hollywood horror movie actor, a guy named Syms Thorley, and it becomes Syms Thorley's job to put on a lizard suit, complete with a flamethrower, and wreck the model city before the eyes of the delegation. Come on, Syms, you can do it! End the war in the Pacific! The Allies are counting on you. The whole world is watching.
Is Syms Thorley based on any particular actor?
Well, there are elements in the Syms Thorley character of Peter Lorre and Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, but mostly Syms is based on Lon Chaney Jr. Like Chaney Jr., Syms has a famous Hollywood father. In the case of Chaney Jr., the famous father, of course, is Lon Chaney Sr., the great silent actor, the man of 1,000 faces. In the case of Syms Thorley, the famous Hollywood father is a screenwriter. And like Chaney Jr., Syms has played or intends to play every sort of Hollywood monster. A werewolf called Baron Ordlust, and a mummy named Khaton Ra, and a Frankenstein-like monster called Corpuscula.
So Syms has to give the performance of his life, right?
Absolutely, the performance of his life. Luckily, he's aided in this endeavor by the great Hollywood director James Whale, who of course gave us The Invisible Man and The Bride of Frankenstein. The great James Whale comes up with all sorts of wonderful ideas for wrecking the miniature city with maximum horror and devastation. Most especially the idea that for the monster, this is not all in a day's work. This is not a pushover. The city has defenses. The defenses are used. So this becomes an agonizing attack for the monster. He suffers, he bleeds. Whale convinces Syms Thorley to make it appear that the Japanese defenses might actually prevail. So that when the city does fall, it's all the more shocking for the delegation.
So, Dad, what would you like readers to take away from Shambling Towards Hiroshima?
There's a framing story set in 1984 that finds Syms Thorley attending a monster movie convention in Baltimore. There he meets a young monster movie fan who's Japanese and whose aunt was one of the hibakusha, which translates as explosion-affected persons, victims of Hiroshima. This young man tells Syms about his aunt's experiences, her ordeal of August the 6th, 1945, the burn casualties, the radiation casualties. So I guess my novella is saying something like, by all means, let's continue to love our monster movies, but let's also remain mindful of the real human cost of wanton destruction. You know, Chris, the original Godzilla movie, Gojira, actually managed to have it both ways. Gojira is a fun monster movie, but it's also a parable on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Allegory doesn't get much more explicit than this. There are scenes depicting the after effects of the monster's attack on Tokyo that include some wrenching moments set in hospital wards, images that deliberately mirror the documentary footage showing the effects of the atomic attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
So, Dad, what are you working on next?
Well, I just finished writing a novelette about a secret tutorial relationship between His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the abominable snowman. The Yeti wants to learn all about Tibetan Buddhism, but that's another story.
Sounds like it is.
Shambling Towards Hiroshima, coming soon to a bookstore near you.
Buy it.
Thanks, Chris.